Today's show is brought to you by StreamTech Drift Boats, the world's most versatile drift boat. Find them at www.streamtechboats.com. I kind of feel bad for these people, but at the same time I don't because they're stupid.
Don't see a circle around yourself, just start pissing everywhere.
Oh, I hate the Dutch.
Welcome to our country. So
she doesn't really look Canadian. She looks almost American. Just insulted all of Canada.
Oh, every time I see something you got If I'd known that before, I would have just interspaced every other sentence with something horrible.
Well, I haven't felt my feet since I sat down in the chair.
Can you see your feet, though?
No. I'd rather do anything else on the planet than go tip a cow over.
How about Canada? Is there any stream access issues up in Canada?
nobody cares.
Not very much.
Kids, if you don't understand that joke, ask your parents.
Evan, Derek?
Yeah.
Oh, God, here it comes.
Your flies are open.
Thanks.
Grab hold of your flies. This is a podcast for nymphers, strippers, swingers, and dry fly guys. It's the show that brings you stories, instruction, and conservation from three guys who live it every day. This is The Open Fly.
There's a 400-pounder roaming around eating people's garbage.
Oh. Did you punch it and run away like you just punched it in the pee-pee?
No, I just I give it a wide berth. It's bigger than I am.
Like B-E-R-T-H or B-I-R-T-H?
Yes, B-E, berth. Metal.
Is it a brown bear or a black bear?
It's a black-phased black bear.
Oh, we're talking about bears.
Yes, the bears.
Oh.
Bear in the neighborhood.
That's fun.
Suburban bears. They're everywhere, every year.
Yeah.
And, people leave their garbage out or leave them behind a fence, and the bear wants to get to it. It'll just go through the fence.
Dicks.
Yeah, sons of...
We just have deer that eat everything we try to grow. That's all we got right here in this neighborhood in Duval, on the side of the tracks.
Yeah, well, don't plant roses.
I didn't.
Good.
Yeah. I
have bears in my neighborhood as well, but they don't seem to bother my garbage because I put it out like the morning of collection.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they tell people to do. Don't put it out the night before. Waste management doesn't come at 4 a.m.
Sometimes they do here. They're really inconsistent.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about bears right here. We got trash pandas, a.k.a. raccoons, but
yeah,
they're usually all right.
Trash pandas?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
What else would you call them?
I don't know.
Little robbers.
Mm-hmm.
Little masks. They look like little robbers.
Yeah.
It's the time of year where we're all foraging in advance of winter and fattening up.
Well, usually
scones.
Yeah. Usually I'm out on our local river floating every day doing my grocery shopping for the local coho salmon. But the other day when I was out shopping for local coho salmon, I got an email that said I couldn't do that anymore.
Market's closed, huh?
Yep.
Who'd the email come from?
The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Oh, they closed down now.
Yep. But then, of course, in social media, the following day, they post up pictures, or was it CCA posted up pictures of still gill nets and everything out in the river.
Up on the Skagit.
Yep. Close it down to us that are catching like 1 or 2 a day, and let the guys that are catching them by the thousands just keep at it.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right, does it?
No, it's bullshit.
It is bullshit. But I also heard that CCA had called the players to the table, and they were going to be talking about this issue.
Yeah.
Tribes,
like, hey.
WDFW.
Well, the WDFW and the quote-unquote co-managers, the tribes, agreed that, hey, we need to stop fishing on these because we don't have the hatchery brood stock to the hatcheries yet, so we need to hold off until we got that. So they agreed, and they closed it down, and they kept fishing.
Hey, that doesn't seem fair.
So why couldn't you, if it's really just about getting eggs for a brood stock and nobody cares about the meat, why not just allow
take them out of the gill nets and take the eggs out of there?
Well, allow the recreational angler, if they don't want the egg sacs, allow the recreational angler to de-skein them and donate the eggs to the hatchery.
Because that would make sense.
Oh.
It's all about removing opportunity for me.
Repression.
Yep.
The man's keeping us down.
Well, have you voiced your opinion at the WDFW listening sessions in the state?
No. Am I supposed to?
Well, there's the problem.
Got to be heard.
There were 8 to 10 sessions across the state this month.
There's a couple things that I've been wanting to propose to them, mostly, on stuff right down the street here. Like the bridge across the Skycomish in Monroe, there's like 20, 30 people a day during the pink run lined up along that bar there where the pinks spawn, just snagging spawners. Like
This is where at?
in Monroe here.
In Monroe?
Just 8 miles down the road. There's that bridge there, and then below that is a big spawning grounds. And it is. I mean, you can see them just digging reds and spawning right there, backside of the water, digging reds and spawning there. And there's just people lined up shoulder to shoulder there, raking it across their backs, dragging them in, and taking home stringer full of black, mushy pinks.
Well, we had the deputy director of WDFW on the show a couple episodes ago.
Familial relations.
Yeah, I heard about that, except for that was that show you couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, I heard you couldn't hear anything either. Anyway.
That was the feedback we got.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
We just make it. We don't listen to it.
I hit the play button and sat there for an hour. I didn't hear anything, but I put in my time.
Yeah.
So what else is going on?
Did my annual fall steelhead trip that I take every year last week, so that was fun.
Where'd you go?
I can't talk about that.
It must be on fire if you can't talk about it.
It was that day. It's not
good.
now.
Was the fishing killer?
It was during the first 2 days it was open, and then now I got friends there that are fishing gear and getting like 1 grab a day, which this is the busiest year I've seen there in a long time, largely because everything else is closed.
Yeah.
It's weird how that works.
That'll do that. So there is opportunity. You just have to travel a little ways to get it.
No, you can travel to this river to get said opportunity, but you're going to be waiting in line with like 20 other dudes.
Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right?
Nope.
Is that really going to be any different on any river anymore?
I don't know.
This time of year, I think it just anything east of here is just going to attract all the frustrated
and west of here
steelhead fishermen.
Oh, west of here is going to go through some changes as well.
I hope so. It needs it. That's the Olympic Peninsula for those that know what we're talking
west
about.
of here has got some pretty aggressive.
Well, they're proposals.
Management proposals on the ground, and
there's management proposals over there every year, though.
Yeah, this one's got some teeth to it, though.
That's good. I like teeth.
No fishing from a boat. No retention of wild steelhead or wild rainbows.
It's only fishing from a boat and the spawning grounds, really, though, which I think is fine. I mean, if people want to fish out of the boat, they can go lower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I've seen some arguments like, well, what about disabled people and people that like fishing out of the boat? Well, you can. There's hundreds of miles of other sections of river nearby that you can do that. Let the fish spawn.
It's the second part of that argument that always falls on the side of that's just being difficult. I mean, what about me? Well, there is opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, not the way that I want it.
Well, they say, well, that just benefits fly anglers, specifically spay anglers, because it gets people from fishing out of their boats to their runs. Actually, if you think about the logic behind that, it really doesn't. Because if people aren't able to fish out of the boat, those people are going to have to park the boat, get out, and fish that run that spay angler would typically want. Kind of pushing them out. So I don't get that argument. Yeah,
one of the arguments for boat fishing is that the way that I guide out of my drift boat is that
you pass up a lot of water.
I pass up. No, I don't pass up a lot of water. Well, I pass up quality. I pass up water that isn't quality, but I don't sit and anchor and hog water.
Right, and I get that too because pretty much I fish out of a boat almost exclusively. That's just I like fishing out of a boat more than I like wading. It's just my preference. Right. But it's a lot of going from point A to point B. If you're running bobbers out of the boat or whatever, you run one line and everything else gets untouched. But if I'm bank angling like I was last week, I'll walk into a run and I'll stay there for 3-4 hours and pick it apart, leaving no stone unturned.
There's a herd mentality that I think is going to be one of the adaptations that anglers have to make. As all this mitigation work is going into place with habitat restoration and rule changes, anglers are going to have to adapt to the changes in ways that make sense to them. I mean, I was up yesterday morning in water that had nobody else around. There were salmon, there were spawning sockeye in that system. I saw fish rising all over the place, and there was nobody else around. So you just have to find water and not blow it up once you find it. I mean,
yeah, that's why the internet's kind of frustrating sometimes, because you think you found that thing that nobody's talking about. Next thing you know, somebody posts a report online saying, "Oh my gosh, it's on fire! Everybody go!" And they think they're doing people a favor when they're doing like 5 dudes that are too lazy to figure out things for themselves a favor, and then doing 100 other people a disservice. And
well, yeah, that's a good way to explain that.
Yeah.
Damn right it is.
Yeah.
I'm flawless in my logic.
You are, especially this morning. You're very flawless.
You think so?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You should be flawless more often.
Thank you. Wait. Yeah. It's these scones. I think they're
schooners.
90% sugar,
schooners.
10% flour, which is basically sugar.
I think they're locally made.
Are they locally sourced?
That makes it okay.
They are the original 2-bite blueberry scones.
This is good radio.
Oh, they're a product of Canada, eh?
Oh, nice. Well, speaking of awesome, healthy food in Canada, there's a sports ball game on the television tonight, and I'm making large batch of poutine with homemade mushroom gravy.
Nothing says American football like poutine.
It's funny about poutine being Canadian. There's not, like, if you really think about what poutine really is, there's really nothing more American than French fries topped with gravy and cheese curds.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good Southern dish.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that's authentic Canadian cuisine.
Yeah,
it's comfort food, but I don't really one for cheese curds on top. I mean, I like melted cheese, not cheese curds.
Well, I'll take the cheese curds, put them over the top with the gravy and everything, and then put them under the broiler for about a minute or two to kind of melt them out.
Oh,
yeah. So talk about comfort food. Kind of an oxymoron, that label, because if I eat a big old plate full of that kind of stuff,
you're uncomfortable sitting on the toilet.
Yeah, I'm anything but comfortable shortly thereafter.
I'm assuming that you saw that video on social media about the unicorn that poops.
I'm aware of it. I haven't watched it yet.
It's freaking hilarious.
I've not seen it.
It's essentially it's why the Chinese and the Japanese are much healthier than we are, because they poop a lot better than we do. They don't sit on a turlet.
And because they don't eat an average of 10 pounds of sugar a month like Americans.
That may be true as well. It may be a generalization that I'm making, but if you look at other cultures who appear to be more healthier on a whole, and that's not a pun.
The Dutch? I wonder if the Dutch are healthy.
The Dutch. But I mean,
the Dutch are tall.
If you go to a restroom outside of Western civilization, you're squatting over a hole in the ground. That's the premise of this video, is that we're pooping incorrectly and that we should be squatting, because when you sit, it tightens up a muscle that's connected to the sphincter.
Hold on. This is not the kind of content we want for this show. That's a little too too instructional.
It is instructional. You're right.
Well, it takes a lot more physical discipline to hold a good squat position. So your quads are firing. You're getting physical benefit at the same time as better ergonomics for the sphincter.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's how I do my business when I'm on floats on the river.
Yeah,
squat.
Sure.
Just right in the boat. I don't have a commode in the boat. So
you poo in the boat?
Sure.
Wow, you don't even have a self bailer.
You are a dirty ass nymph bead fishing center pin mofo.
Hey, last week I skated dry flies and swung green butt skunks and skycomish sunrises.
Evan butt skunks.
I did my duty to call myself a fly fisherman, and then I caught my fish on beads.
There you go. As long as you were giving your Hail Marys and all that stuff.
I paid homage to the fly fishing gods for several hours.
Excellent.
Here you go.
They just gave me a middle finger, so I gave one back and threw a spoon.
Well, speaking of middle finger, Apple iOS has finally added the bird to their emoji set. So with the latest upgrade, I can finally send my favorite emoji.
Well, where does that word come from? Emoji?
The bird?
No, emoji. I know that it has its root in emotions.
Yeah, I think it's just been an evolution over time. Like emoticons, and then they decided that was too long, so they call them emotes, and then emojis. Probably
It sounds like a love child of the Karate Kid and Forrest Gump.
Well, I think
the mud smiley face T-shirt and Mr. Miyagi.
Well, it's definitely Japanese based. Emoji.
Huh.
Emoji.
Oh,
Yeah, you got to say it like you're getting punched in the gut.
Yeah.
Emoji.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now we've just alienated our entire Japanese listening audience.
I don't think we checked them off the list yet.
I think that's a nod to our Japanese audience.
Sure,
actually, it's more like an homage, if you will.
Omaji.
Homage.
Excellent.
Well done.
Do we have any listener feedback?
I didn't check this morning, but we didn't get any as of yesterday.
Okay.
A lot of people listened to the last show. It was a real popular one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Who was that with? Was that with that
The Trout TV.
Yeah.
Trout TV chick?
Yeah.
Apparently, apparently after the show, she starts popping up all over the place. Facebook and Instagram and social media as getting some attention. So I think we did her.
Yeah, we launched her
a pretty big favor. I mean, that was.
I mean, all 12 of our listeners have really put that out there.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm starting to see these coincidences where we have on these, these untalented no names, and all of a sudden they burst and blossom into these superstars of the fly fishing world.
I'm not even sure if Hillary listened to the last show.
Oh.
She probably did, just to be, polite. And I bet if I asked her, do you listen to other ones, she would say, oh, yeah. So, Hillary, if you're listening...
She probably turned it off at the instructional segment.
Exactly. So if she's listening, send us an email and we'll send you an Open Fly Podcast hat.
I don't even have any hats.
I do. I have one. I
got some stickers I could put on a hat.
Well, we'll send her a sticker too. But she has to listen to get this message.
Do we have any ladies' tees?
No. Well, I guess we could say that the ones we have are unisex, as in get one that's 2 sizes too big and wear it as a pajama shirt.
Or 2 sizes too small and wear it as a nightie.
Because she needs to be wearing some of our swag on a future episode of Trout TV.
Right. I agree.
I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
I like that.
But she won't listen to this episode, so she won't get this message.
Probably not.
Well, only one of our 2 winners from, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Man, we're cramming these shows together pretty close now.
Yeah.
Winning the prizes for donating to the Trout Bus. One of them claimed their prize. The other one I have still yet to hear from.
Really?
Sometimes fame is tough for people. They're like,
There's some anxiety.
Well, you were offering some pretty nice stuff.
Yeah, well, one guy got one.
Yeah.
Got a nice stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
what did he get? I forgot.
He won an Allen Fly Fishing Trout 2 reel.
Dude, that's pretty nice stuff.
That's what I thought.
Sweet.
Did you throw in some of those squid jigs you have over there on the desk?
Baitcaster reel and a stack of ones.
Hunnits.
And his voter ballot. So
That's my desk for you. I gotta send that in.
nice.
Yeah, I got my stack of squid jigs for my grocery shopping on the local river that I can no longer do legally.
Excellent.
Are you considering a pursuit of illegal coho?
No.
No. What about buying it? Or would you buy it from someplace?
No, I got enough steelhead in the freezer from the summer of harvest.
Are you going to crisp up some adipose fins?
And that's for soup.
Oh, yeah.
Adipose fin soup with bald eagle egg drop in there.
That's a good one.
Nice, yeah. It's an aphrodisiac in Asia.
I believe that.
Oh, don't spread that rumor. Otherwise, they'll start overfishing the wild steelhead.
Yeah. What's the aphrodisiac? The adipose fin or the bald eagle eggs?
Yeah, that.
Both of them?
Probably. Hey, speaking of wild steelhead.
Going at wild steelhead fin boners.
Moving right along.
Catching two-handed rods for that one.
At the Yakima Headwaters meeting last night,
Yes.
Bob was talking about the wild steelhead in the system. Mm-hmm. And I fished with him last Friday, and he mentioned that he was going to be heading up a committee.
Yes.
Nice.
Subcommittee of the conservation chair for the chapter. I think it's a great addition. When he proposed getting involved, I was like, well, really, that's great.
Who's Bob?
Bob Margulis, the past executive, the one and only past executive director of the Wild Steelhead Coalition.
Ooh.
Yeah. So to have that kind of horsepower involved with this fishery is It's tremendous
Yeah.
because it has the potential to be a. I don't want to use the word a gene bank, but I mean we've got these gene banks being established over here on the coastal rivers and the internal Puget Sound rivers. That's a system that's got some pretty healthy fish coming back into it, and the majority of them that are returning are hens. So what we're learning is that one, it's a good thing to be a resident rainbow trout in the Yakima River because once a year. Well, the ladies come into town, and
big gals.
The big girls come into town, and as a small guy, you can do a lot of stuff. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Kirk. I mean,
so all the resident rainbow trout go on what we would call as college kids a buffalo hunt. find the big fat girl.
Well, for immature audiences, yes, that could be true.
That's me.
But. Yeah, that's tremendous. An opportunity for to get involved. And
there's a trib on the Yakima that, I mean, some would say is probably one of the most robust and healthy wild steelhead summer runs in the state.
So here's an interesting little fact to chew on is that there are more than
chewing
one.
on a scone right now.
Yeah.
Wait till I'm done.
Canadian scones. The great thing about that sidebar is that those are at the current exchange rate. I mean, it says how many calories.
I mean, you probably paid for Tim Hortons and you got those.
230 calories per each scone. So and you've had 8 scones.
Oh man, I might have to rethink my poutine.
Right. So there are more than one of tributaries on this system, especially in the headwaters that are wild steelhead spawning and rearing habitat.
Well, there's one in particular that the populations are much higher than you would expect.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's a guide service or two that guides spay only swinging quote unquote trout trips there, which I think needs to stop. But that's another tangent.
So there's a system in the headwaters that has the last time that there was some fish surveys done, which was just like a week ago, as part of an adaptive management piece with the restoration work that was done in this system. So some root balls and big woody debris and stuff like that was put in to help create some structure and control flooding and improve spawning habitat for spring chinook and for sockeye. In a 100-meter stretch of river where they were electroshocking, they counted
USA. It's 100 yards.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, but
carry on.
I think science still uses the metric system for some reason. I don't know.
Carry on.
Yeah. They found 50 brook trout and only 9 rainbows.
That's not good.
Not good.
Eat a brookie.
Right. So
if you live in Washington and release a brookie, you are the problem.
Right.
Carry on.
So we should be going through this process now of checking with Fish and Game and saying, when we encounter brook trout on this system, what shall we do with them? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is bonk them and fry them, then let's promote that as a.
I'll do my grocery shopping on the Yakima system.
Right. Yeah, just make like fish sticks, instead of steaks, just go get some brook trout fish sticks.
Speaking of fish sticks, this is an excellent branding opportunity for a company that makes those personal steel batons for self-defense.
What are those called?
I don't know. But if somebody were to brand them in the coloration of a brook trout and put, a brook stick, anglers could carry those with them. And when they see a brookie, they just one quick whack on the noggin toast.
That is a powerful idea, Kirk. I really like that idea.
Yeah. Trout Unlimited should be handing those out.
The brook bat.
Yeah, the brook bat.
Mm-hmm. It wouldn't do so good on the east, but out here in the west, it would probably go over.
Yeah, if you're in Vermont, I don't recommend the brook bat.
No, it would have its regional jurisdictions, obviously.
And if someone saw you, let's say if enforcement saw you on the water and you had your brook bat, proudly brandished on your side, they knew that you were there to kill brook trout.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a bad.
You're
idea.
An officer of conservation at that point.
There, I've been deputized right there. I've got a bat. That's not a bad idea.
All right, we are coming up with ideas on the Open Fly podcast today.
That's what we're all about. This is think tank stuff.
I think you could probably kill those 50 brook trout in that system, and tomorrow there'd be 50 more.
Probably.
That's the thing with brook trout.
Mm-hmm. They're like the Hydra. You take one and 2 grow in its place.
What was that?
Just old man dad noises.
Squatting over there. He's getting his...
Well, my quads are firing. I'm pooing in the Japanese way. Well, speaking of that, can we take a break? And when we come back, we need to get on to our next guest, our first guest.
So we're going to do an interview today?
Yes, and I believe she may be waiting for us.
Oh.
Well, there's the first.
Well, she's going to have to wait till you're done firing your quads.
You're fired.
Do you need a magazine this morning?
I think I got a copy of some Fly Fishing magazine sitting up here.
I didn't bring my reading glasses, so it wouldn't do me any good.
Well, then, I guess we can go and do that.
Okay. 3,
All right.
2,
1, and out.
This is Derek, and on behalf of Stream Tech Boats, I want to talk to you about 3 factors that I consider really important when you're choosing a drift boat, and that's safety, fun, and performance. These are the safest drift boats around to float out of. They're fun to row, and from a performance standpoint, if you're a professional on the water, all 3 of these factors are important. So let's take a second to hear from the man who designed the boat himself.
I tried pretty much everything, that just none of them were really doing what I wanted. So we set out to design a boat. I'd call it the one boat that would maneuver like the hard boats, that would go in the really rough places, that would float high, that would have all the amenities that come on a hard boat with anchor systems and good leaning, a very nice flat floor that you can inflate hard, that you can stand on, no bolts, no nuts, no pins, no clips, nothing to put it together. For the reasons that it's so good for fishing, it got this rocker, and so it pivots quickly, and it slides out on the foam pile when you come off big drops. That rocker just climbs right out on the foam pile. A total game changer.
So there you have it. My recommendation, Link's words. Look for us at www.streamtechboats.com. Call Link directly. He'll answer that phone, and he'll get you on your way towards the best drift boat on the market.
Now back to the open fly.
We're back.
Yeah, we are.
I like to say that.
Yeah, I'm just kind of going to make that your segment from here on.
He's good at it, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm the guy that.
Since we don't get listener feedback anymore, you get your segment of, and we're back.
We're back.
Talk to us about the importance of a cool down, though, after an intense quad firing session. Kirk, is it important to stretch out and cool down?
Cool down stretches, a lot of fluids afterwards, drain those lactic acids, and then move on.
There you go.
Which I suggest we do.
Move on to our interview.
Yeah.
Kirk, I'm going to give you the responsibility of introducing today's guest.
Oh, wow. Pressure's on me. All right. Well, we're proud to have with us Sam Mace. It doesn't stand for Samuel. I believe it's probably Samantha. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. So she is not
amused.
She is no, she will be.
Good start.
I've never heard that one before, ever.
Well, there's like 3 or 4 listeners that needed to hear it.
Exactly. Anyway, Sam is with the Save Our Wild Salmon organization. She is the inland director of that group. And they are a key player in a very important hot topic facing the Pacific Northwest, which is the removal of the Snake River dams, 4 of them. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
It's good to be here, isn't it?
It is.
In Duval?
Especially when I'm in the Dalles.
Yeah.
It's kind of ruining the magic.
What would happen to the Columbia River system if those 4 dams get taken out?
Of the Snake?
Yeah.
Well, just getting right to the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Snake River Basin, the Snake River is the largest tributary of the Columbia River. And it is the stronghold of the best habitat we have left in the lower 48 for wild salmon and steelhead. Millions of acres in Idaho, excellent habitat in northeast Oregon, some good rivers in southeast Washington as well. And those 4 dams are 4 dams too many on the system. And if we took those 4 dams out, we would be getting enough salmon back up into all that wonderful, pristine habitat that it would support the ecosystems, it would support a strong recreational fishery, and it would help the commercial fishermen on the coast as well, not to mention meet our tribal obligations under the treaties.
Sure.
It is the place. There's nowhere else where we could have such a big bang for our buck than just taking those 4 dams out.
Right. So for people that don't understand the issue necessarily, they think that that people just want to knock down these huge hydroelectric generating plants, and that's not necessarily the case. On the Columbia River, the dams are very much about hydroelectric power generation, correct?
Yes, hydro, flood control, and some significant irrigation for farmland as well.
Right. And the difference being that the 4 dams on the Snake below Hell's Canyon were all built primarily, or was it with transportation in mind?
Their primary purpose, and the first time they were proposed, was for barge transportation to make Lewiston, Idaho, a seaport 450 miles inland.
Right.
How'd that work out for them?
And if that sounds like well, it hasn't worked out for anybody real well, I have to tell you. At the time, it sounded like a great idea. These 4 dams were built at the end of sort of the dam building binge that was happening across the West. And they were ill-conceived dams to begin with. Lewiston was promised that these dams would just bring this huge boom to their economy, that we'd have more salmon than ever before due to the wonderful hatcheries that the Corps of Engineers and the federal agencies were going to build. And really, none of that has materialized. If you go through Lewiston, it's clear from the first time you drive through that downtown that it's a town that's really struggling. Its economy has not benefited at all from those 4 dams since they went in. The last one went in 1976.
Yeah.
So not that long ago, really. And there's a few more people there in that town willing to say, wow, is that emperor really wearing some clothes? For a long time it was hard to talk about taking dams out because it seems so radical. But there are more quiet conversations going on, even there at Ground Zero.
Right. Well, I can't remember how many years ago it was now, maybe 15 or 20, that they drew down the water level in Lewiston. And I can't remember why they did it, if it was an experimental thing or what. But everybody complained at that time about all the loss of property along the waterfront.
Yeah, it was a test to try to see how it would benefit the salmon, and it certainly did. You give the salmon a river over a lake, and they're going to do better.
Right.
You're going to have more survival coming and going. And it was very disruptive because if you're lowering a reservoir and then raising it up a few more months later and then lowering it again and raising it up a few months later, you're not getting all those benefits of what a restored riverfront and waterway would bring to the community. And so it created a lot of fear there in the community with fears of the stinking mud hole,
Sure.
quote unquote. You go back, though, and you look at photos of that waterfront pre-dam in Clarkston, Lewiston, and it is spectacular. There were these huge public sandy beaches where people swam and played. There was fishing right down. I know an Idaho fishing game guy who used to run down from his office at lunch hour, who was also a marathon runner, sprint down to the confluence of the Clearwater and Snake, get some casts in, and then sprint back to his office.
Right.
You could fish for steelhead right downtown. And that's what they've lost. And I think one of the reasons that dam removal and removal of those lower Snake River dams is becoming less scary and more positive in people's minds is that we've seen the success stories on these other rivers like the Elwha, like the white salmon,
Right.
where if you take those dams out and you let the river recover and maybe you give it some help, the banks, the whole system comes back far more quickly than the scientists even predicted.
Sure.
And that's what we would see on the lower Snake.
Would it smell better in the lovely twin cities of Lewiston, Clarkston if these dams went away?
Well, think you'd have to talk to Clearwater Paper and also the eco-composting facility that the Port of Lewiston has put right across from downtown.
That's a great place to put those kinds of industrial activities, isn't
perfect.
it?
Yeah, right on the side of the river.
That's magical. I remember.
There's nothing better than sitting out on a patio in downtown Lewiston on a 100-degree day.
Well, there's actually a couple of things coming to mind that are better than that. But I mean, we're not far away from the wonderful fish art here in Duval. But I remember my undergraduate days, and I know that is a surprise to many, probably at Washington State, where we would get in our cars and go Cougs, and we would drive down to Wawawi and across the dam, and there was a wonderful beach area with sand and stuff. But I remember the first time I went, and this would be in the summer of '89, there was hundreds of dead, rotting carcasses on the side of the river there, and that was a big turnoff to me in terms of going back there, because it felt like the water was dirty and there's a bunch of dead fish on the beach. Gosh, the utopia that you describe of without having dams in Lewiston, Clarkston, I might want to go buy real estate there right now if these dams come down.
I think it'd be a great place. I think the place would have an economic boom.
So, I mean, I have friends that live in the Lewiston, Clarkston Valley, so I know the area well enough. I know what it looks like right now with the lakefront, as it were. Let's say they take these 4 dams down. How many vertical feet of water are going to be lost in that area?
That's a good question. I know down near Lower Granite, it's about 100 feet, I think. So maybe a little less than that there. I actually don't know the exact. But, you certainly have, a beach area go out 50 feet or more, 50 yards or more.
Yeah.
You'd have a lot of waterfront property. And when you look at the whole system of the Lower Snake, you would have, there's 30,000 acres underwater while you include the river area, right? You would have at least 15,000 acres of land back, wildlife habitat that people used to fish and hunt, fish habitat. There were farm towns that were drowned under there. There's quite a bit of land that would be pretty productive for a lot of different things. And in Clarkston, Lewiston, the problem that they have there also that's preventing them from really being able to develop or even take advantage of the reservoir is that the Lower Granite Dam is creating a flood risk for Lewiston, Clarkston, because you have thousands and thousands and thousands of free-flowing river miles upstream, and all that sediment is flowing down, through the Salmon River drainage, all those areas, and it's depositing right behind Lower Granite Dam. Mm-hmm. So the water level is rising, and what you have in Lewiston right now is sort of a mini New Orleans, where the level of the river is higher than historic downtown.
So if they come out, would that problem just be passed down to McNary Dam?
Well, you wouldn't have it, McNary. You don't have large communities along it in the same way. But when the Corps studied dam removal, they estimated that the sediment would just sort of dissipate out in the side areas. Not nearly the problem that Clarkston Lewiston has.
Umatilla is not needed anyway.
No, nobody needs Pasco.
Right.
A couple of years ago, I camped along Dworshak. And I was really surprised to see, even in August, where you do expect to see lower lake levels and low river levels, how low that lake was. What happens to these secondary dams in a scenario where the lower 4 of the Snake come out? What happens to these remaining concrete structures along this river?
That's an excellent question. And Dworshak was built, which destroyed the largest B-run, steelhead run in the world. And it was built for flood control mostly and to provide cold water flows down through the system. Even though it was sold to the local community as this big recreation boon, but it's hard to take advantage of the recreation on Dworshak when the water level is fluctuating so deeply, because they use Dworshak for flood control, and then in the summer, because of the impacts of the dams and the hot water in the system that's making it hard on the salmon, they take cold flows from the bottom of Dvorak and send them down the river. So it's been a while. I know a number of years ago we looked at different flow scenarios, and they're not entirely coming to my mind exactly what was discovered, but I think there's definitely an opportunity there where if you were able to give the salmon an easier, faster way down the lower Snake system, the water would be cooler, it'd be a faster journey, that you might not have to draw as much out of Dvorak.
What's the chances of tearing down Dvorak?
That's a big, tall dam.
Yeah.
It is, and it has a lot of structural problems.
Oh.
It did from the day it went online. It actually has a safety rating of D by the Corps of Engineers.
D is in Dvorak?
Yeah. And they argue that, well, it's D not because it's just about to fail, but if it did fail, it would be so devastating.
Oh, yeah.
It would take out, right?
That's better.
Yeah, D stands for devastating. Yeah,
That's better. So they're like, don't worry your pretty little head about it, or, Lewis and Clarkston.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
have you read the book A River Lost by Blaine Harden?
Yes, I love that book.
Well, good. I love that book. I love that book as well. I think for the listener that has no idea about this issue or is getting a firsthand introduction to it today, that's a really, really good painting of the story of why these dams exist and the players in the game right now. I found it completely fascinating to hear the perspective of how certain elements of industry view the river versus my perspective of being a wild fish advocate. It was completely educational.
Yeah, people see different values in it, and certainly those values are changing over the decades. So what is and particularly? Oh, go ahead.
What is the economy of? Because this is the question that comes to mind for a lot of people: is if there is a local economy that's limping along because of barge traffic and because of agriculture and because of logging. You take those two legs of the stool away, and you've got what left to keep this town up? Or is it a shift in strategy for these inland towns that are more salmon and recreation based?
I kind of view it more as a way of enhancing and building on an economy that always is going to have a strong agricultural base. And we want it to have that strong agricultural base. What we have happening on the Snake is that we have these 4 dams that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to maintain, repair, and that's not even getting to the cost of salmon recovery to mitigate for the impacts those dams are creating. And these 4 dams are not flood control. They are not water storage dams. There's irrigation off one pool that could continue with a free-flowing river. About 3%, and that's being generous, of the power produced in the region, and barge transportation, which was their primary reason. And what's been happening over the decades is that primary value of those dams is in free fall. Barging is down more than 60% on the river, for a variety of reasons, in part because those 4 dams, barge transportation only works for certain products. You need rail and truck to get a lot of goods to market, and it only helps if you're wanting to get goods to the Port of Portland. And a lot of shippers are now wanting to get goods to the Puget Sound, and those 4 dams aren't helping. Yeah. And so what our coalition wants to see, and Save Wild Salmon Coalition, we are conservation groups, we are sport fishing groups and businesses, and we're commercial fishermen. And, the folks who make their living on salmon are not looking to shift the burden all onto the farmers. What we're wanting to do is say, hey, you guys have a system that's not working for us. For you, we have a system that's not working for us. Is there a better way to spend this money? What if we took some of those hundreds of millions that we're spending on these 4 dams and instead invested it into the rail system that you guys need and the other infrastructure you guys need? And, I look at Lewiston, it's a lot like my hometown of Coos Bay, natural resource dependent, but gotten itself in a position where it's not taking advantage of that additional recreational economy, and it's not created a place or young professionals and people want to move to start businesses. And I think that's what Clarkston Lewiston could have if they had a free-flowing river and all those recreational amenities, that more people would want to move there, that young people who grew up there would have an opportunity to move back rather than having to move away because they can't find jobs.
It's a great area.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. And it's close enough.
Yeah.
It's close enough to Pullman to be a season ticket holder for the football games, and basketball. Access to up the Clearwater and Hell's Canyon. I mean, it's amazing country.
The Grand Durand is an hour drive away.
Let's paint a picture of the bad guy. You know, who would gain from those things staying there? That's what I don't get. In all my years of following this, I've never quite put my finger on who it is that's protecting these dams.
The man.
Who's the man?
The man. The largest entity that is benefiting from those dams and unwilling to change is the Bonneville Power Administration.
Oh, well, that should be an easy one to change.
Yeah, it's the federal agency that markets all that power. And they have treated that river as if they own every drop of water in it. And they are the entity that has held up any kind of conversation on, what are the other alternatives out there? Could we take those dams out and everyone, most 99% of the folks be better off? And you also have utilities, some of the small public utilities that have a fear that rates would go up. That fear is unfounded. I think that when you look at the studies of what the additional cost would be for power, it's very minimal. But they are constantly fed this line by Bonneville Power Administration that, your rates will go through the roof. And that's just not the case.
So
BPA.
BPA. So recently there was a flotilla held at Wawawi, and it was not just a bunch of long-haired hippies wanting to tear down a dam.
I'm sure there were a few.
I wasn't.
Oh,
I wasn't
sure.
even,
There were a few.
There was. I'm sure, what is the collective voice behind the Free the Snake campaign? What kind of people are supporting this?
That day was incredible. We thought maybe 120 would come down, and we had 350 people come down and get on the water in a variety of watercraft. And the people supporting the Free the Snake are members of our coalition. So it's the sport fishing guys, it's the commercial fishermen, it's the kayakers and river recreationists. There were also there a handful of guys, sport fishing guys, steelheaders who fought those dams going in and fought a really good fight. And there's a lot of people still around that remember that river pre-dam. They were there. We had a whole contingent. It must have been 40 killer whale advocates from the San Juan Islands there, because they are now drawing the connection between the opportunity we have in the Snake River Basin to, produce a ton of fish and the need for the endangered killer whales in the Puget Sound, to get a better food source. Yep. So they were there. And then the Nez Perce tribe was there in full force as well. And it was just this fantastic coming together of people of all ages and walks of life. People from afar and people from right in the backyard of the dams. Yeah. And there was even a wheat farmer or two. So it was a great day.
Yeah. Well, I think the really critical thing about this is that, you mentioned the last dam went in 1979. Is that what did you say?
1976.
76.
Yeah.
That's not even a lifetime ago. That is
not for you.
Well, not for me. But
I was born after that.
Oh my God. Anyway.
I'm feeling old.
But it's not that often that you face an issue like this where a large segment of the living population can remember what it was like pre-dam. This isn't ancient history. This is just not yesterday apparently, but a couple yesterdays ago. So
you're old enough to be that dam's dad, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, well, I was frolicking along the banks of the river down there within 5 years after the last dam was built. So,
With a can of Coors Light and your Cougs hat on, and
shotgun chasing birds down along the railroad tracks.
I've seen pictures of Kirk with Coors Light and a shotgun. It's
Well, let's keep moving on. Trying to protect my reputation here. So, what comes next? I mean, the flotilla was great at drawing some attention to the issue, but you don't want to let that momentum die out. You want to keep it building.
Right. There's a lot going on, and I just think we want to capture the momentum and keep moving forward. And some of the things I think that will be happening is, we've been getting thousands of emails and phone calls and letters into the Obama administration asking them to do something. I think that our Northwest leaders out here, Senators Murray and Cantwell, are key. If you want to make one phone call, you want to write one letter. Write two letters, actually. Write one to Cantwell and write one to Murray, because it's really in their hands. They could change things around. I think too, what is really going to further this cause is, those of us in Spokane really care about that river for the salmon and the steelhead and the recreation opportunities. It's great to see the people in Puget Sound and Seattle, those who don't fish or don't steelhead, starting to care about the Snake River because of their killer whales.
Yeah.
Which, they do love. And I think that is a huge connection. The other thing coming down the pike any day is that we're expecting a new judge on the case to rule on the federal agency's whole plan for how they're going to restore these salmon. And that plan has more holes in it, than a net. And we'll see what the judge rules. But if he throws that plan out, that's another real opportunity, I think. And the other thing, which is a sad state, I wish this wasn't the case, but the last few years we have seen better runs than we were seeing 10 years ago. And that's because of ocean conditions and some other factors. But our ocean conditions are turning around, and we're looking at some pretty bleak years for the salmon and steelhead, unless we do some real changes. And I think that's going to be a wake-up call for the public. And on the positive side, people are celebrating Elwha. People are seeing these rivers come back to life, and that's really inspiring people. So I think it's on a cusp right now. There is an energy that I've not seen since 2000, when we came so close to getting, dam removal really looked at and put on the table. Well, it was on the table, but as part of the whole biological opinion, the Fed's plan. And I think this time we're going to take it over the top with help from people.
Sure.
Yeah, let's talk just some numbers, because you mentioned that these 4 dams contribute 3% to the hydroelectric power that's being generated, correct?
Yes.
The main, to summarize, the main user groups of this system right now are, of course, energy generation, agriculture. How much food is being grown that gets, and what type of food is being grown that's being shipped on these barges out to the port of Portland or the port of Lewiston, Clarkston?
It is mostly soft white wheat that is going to Pakistan.
Soft white wheat going to, that sounds like the description of my midsection.
Yeah.
I've got a nice little soft white wheat belly.
It is what they use to make Twinkies, so,
Oh, are you talking about destroying Twinkies? Holy cow. Now people should be paying attention.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is it lentils? Is it grain? Is it quinoa? Is it maize? I mean, what else is coming out of there?
Well, interesting that you bring that up, because the other main crops that are grown on the Palouse, as they say, in southeast Washington, are garbanzo beans, lentils, and peas. And if you ever hit the lentil festival in Pullman back in exciting times,
legumes.
But they can't ship just in bulk on barges. They need to go by containers, like you see on trains going by. Mm-hmm. And they were putting those in containers and putting them on barges and sending them down to Port of Portland. the Port of Portland is struggling so bad, is having so many problems that they've lost all their container shipping. And so the farmers are struggling right now to get their goods to Puget Sound so they can get, they can get the goods on ships and overseas. So that's another real opportunity for us to reach out to growers and say, we want to help. Let's get the rail lines in place so you can send this directly to Puget Sound.
There's not a market for those grains or those legumes in the United States, or is this all just foodstuffs going to different countries?
There are some Pacific Northwest grain growers. There are some grower cooperatives that are starting to focus more on U.S. markets. If you ever eat at Grand Central Bakery in Seattle or Portland, they're getting all their wheat, for example, from Eastern Washington, or some of the garbanzo beans and other legumes.
Hummus.
They're starting to look at hummus. They're starting to ask questions of why are we shipping this overseas to have it turned into hummus powder and shipped back here? Why don't we start a hummus plant?
There should be a Lewis and Clark brand of hummus.
See more of that.
Exploratory flavor.
Like all our logs that we're sending to China to be turned into things and sent
Yes.
back. That also makes sense.
Exactly.
If there was only a way to make food locally and consume it locally.
Imagine that.
It sounds like a lot of work.
And you add some salmon to that, too. I mean, heck, we might even be a sustainable economy up here in the Pacific Northwest, huh?
I think so.
Outrage.
One of the best food sources, most nutritious and delicious, home grower salmon.
Yeah, no doubt.
So if I'm that lead salmon going up the river, the Columbia River through Bonneville, and if I get through the first dam or the second one, where am I headed, and where am I going now if I'm not getting to where I want to go?
It's once you start up the sink system?
Yeah.
Do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the, fall Chinook are spawning in the main stem, so they're in the reservoirs or up there in Hell's Canyon where you do have some free-flowing Snake River left. And then one of the most special fish where we have some incredible genetic banks for are, of course, spring, summer Chinook. Up in all those streams in Idaho and, the middle fork of the Salmon, all up in those wilderness areas, also in the Wallowa River, some of those rivers in northeast Oregon, and up the Wanaha River in southeast Washington. And then there's steelhead. And they're also going up into those tributary streams to spawn. And, one thing also I'll say is that, which makes the Snake River salmon so important, is that, they travel farther and spawn at higher elevation than any other salmon in the world. They're spawning up in areas in Idaho, at 6,000 feet. Or we have the sockeye, the famed Idaho sockeye, that are spawning in Redfish Lake at 6,500 feet.
Lonesome Larry?
And Lonesome Larry, yes. But those systems, right, you have intact wilderness habitat at higher elevation where the water's staying cooler, and it could be just an incredible arc for salmon.
Yeah.
As we deal with climate change.
What about Hell's Canyon Dam?
Yeah.
Can we get that one on the list, too?
I personally hate Hell's Canyon Dam. I love the Hell's Canyon area. And it drowned out some of the most beautiful rapids. Largest rapids in North America are behind that dam.
Yeah.
But, again, you have to answer the power and irrigation questions.
Sure. Yeah, that.
So
We don't like to be instructional on this podcast, and that's reflected in pretty much every show. But and not to inspire anybody's monkey wrenching here, but if I were going to be in charge of taking down these dams, how would I do this? What's the process like? Is it a matter of, like they took down the Elwha, slow like that, or is it something different?
This one would be a lot quicker because these dams are made of concrete, like most dams, but they also have an earthen portion on the side. And all you would have to do is take out that earthen portion and let the river run free. So you wouldn't actually have to take out the whole concrete structure. And when the Corps studied this back in 1999, when dam removal was on the table as an option, they looked at taking out two of the dams, two of the earthen portions one summer, then letting the spring flow, flush the sediment down, and then taking out the next two the following summer.
So the concrete portions would remain standing as an eyesore or a reminder?
Well,
well, now you're getting philosophical.
There's those that, really want the concrete structure taken out. That's obviously a lot more money.
Yeah.
From my view, let's get the river running free. That's pretty cheap to get D9s out and take that out.
Yeah.
And then, we can look at what we want to do with those concrete structures.
It's an amazingly huge handball court behind those dams right now. Just think about it. You could play all kinds of games of handball back there.
Some good rock climbing, maybe. There'd be some good climbing walls, potentially.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what can people do to help?
Well, I think educate yourself and follow the issue. Another great film I have to recommend for folks is Damnation.
Yep.
That Patagonia produced, just about dam removals all across the country. And then contact your members of Congress, especially if you live in Washington State. Senators Murray and Cantwell need to hear from people. Governor Jay Inslee has completely ducked this issue, and he really needs to hear.
Yeah, and I think even out-of-state people can weigh in on this because they might not be in their constituents, but say, hey, I have a lot of interest in coming out there and spending money to recreate in these places. So if you want my money, you should do things.
Absolutely, and I think the Obama administration needs to hear. And the other thing you can do is go to damnationfilm.com and go to the giant petition that Patagonia has been organizing, where I think we have over 80,000 signatures on, and sign that petition. And we're going to be delivering an updated petition to the Obama administration.
You almost said
later
the
this year.
Administration.
I know. I'm really dating myself.
Or you are foreshadowing.
No.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Hey, these scones have soft white wheat belly in them.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, it seems like it's a Washington, Idaho issue, but
Oregon also. Oregon benefits.
Yeah, I guess there's some snake in Oregon there and some Columbia in Oregon. Yeah,
well, it benefits. All those fish swim past Astoria, and they swim past all those, Buoy 10. So Oregon has a huge
When
stake.
I travel the country doing trade shows, I talk to people all the time, in every corner of the country that say they do or want to go to Washington to fish for steelhead. And, of course, they're always talking about the Olympic Peninsula because that's where the magazine articles are writing about. And I think these guys could kind of shift their focus and try to open up what would be an even more amazing fishery.
Swing up a desert steelhead?
Wow.
Yeah, because desert steelhead actually, eat flies and stuff.
Well, it doesn't rain as much, too. It's a lot more enjoyable to fish the eastern Washington rivers.
Yeah, sunburns are way better than rain jackets.
Yeah. True. What happens to the...
you guys are stoic on those Ole streams, I have to say.
I quit going there 3 years ago.
What happens to secondary species? So, I mean, we know that if we restore salmon populations, that other wildlife will benefit from that. But right now there are invasive or transplanted species that are in these systems that would probably go away. Right? I'm thinking of smallmouth in.
Oh, they would be decline at least.
The JD. I'm thinking about smallmouth in the lower GR. I'm thinking about in the lower Deschutes. I mean, would we see
definitely be less of them?
Yeah, there's a lot of smallmouth in the snake too.
Yeah.
A lot fewer pike minnow.
Yes.
And so you'd have the cold water fishery again. Wow. But and then there'd be huge benefits to sturgeon. To Pacific lamprey, which are an ugly little eel, but incredibly important to the tribes.
Yep.
And there's a lot of other native fish, and not to mention in the industrial agricultural landscape that is Southeast Washington, just incredible wildlife habitat. I mean, I hear the stories of what it was like to bird hunt and deer hunt, on the Snake River breaks, and we'd have all that back too. There's a lot of wildlife habitat.
Yeah.
Everybody except for the power companies have something to benefit.
And
That is true. They would sleep better at night. Maybe they would sleep better at night.
Well,
knowing that.
I thought that the government worked for the people. Is that too
abstract? They seem to forget that, and Bonneville Power Administration definitely forgets that.
Yeah.
So they need to be reminded.
Vote them out of office.
They're a person. Remember, corporations are people now. So.
Positions.
Elected positions.
Well, should we wrap this up? We've been at it for 40-something.
Yeah, so let's encourage our listening audience to go to the Save the Wild Salmon website.
Damnation.
And Damnation. And just look through the bowels of the Internet for the Free the Snake campaign and digest all that information.
Well, yeah, so you can go to our website, which is wildsalmon.org, and keep up to date. You can sign up for our newsletter. And then freethesnake.com is, because of we put that up just for the rally, but I think it's going to morph into something a little else. But certainly you can learn about next year's Free the Snake Flotilla. Everyone who came down and participated a few weeks ago want to do it again next year. And it's a great opportunity to come down and see the canyon if you haven't done that before.
I know that the name Snake River probably refers to its serpentine sort of shape and geology, but is there an actual snake that is that can be? Kirk's a good artist. He could draw a T-shirt that says "Free the Snake" with some sort of cool snake on it. What kind of snake would that be?
Well, it'd probably have to be a rattler.
Yeah, prairie rattler.
Fine down there.
Don't tread on me.
There's bull snakes too.
Yes.
Oh.
I got bit by a rattlesnake once.
Well, that's on topic.
So you're actually...
It was. We were talking about snakes. It was relevant.
Were you poking it with a stick?
No, I tried to pick it up.
It was CrossFitting.
I was 10 years old.
Yeah. He grew up in Ephrata. Yeah. That explains a lot.
I was 10. I was on the farm. There was a little baby snake that was probably like a day or two out of the egg, and I thought it was a bull snake and tried to pick it up. It bit me.
They're quite potent when they're young, too. Their venom is...
Yeah, I know. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. Did you get bit?
Yeah.
Do you have holes in your body from the snake bite?
No, they're really small.
Oh.
Well, I think this is a great topic. Hopefully
bites?
everybody... snake bites. I hope everybody will jump on board and start paying attention to this, because it may have seemed like a far-fetched proposition to get these dams removed years ago, but it seems like it's gaining a lot of momentum and could happen in our lifetime, hopefully sooner.
I think it will.
Excellent.
Sooner than you think.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Go team.
Take these dams down.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for taking time out of your day, Sam. And
are you talking while you're driving?
No, I am parked in a shady spot so that my dog is comfortable.
Wow. What kind of dog do you have there with you?
Let's talk about that.
I have a border collie.
Oh, very nice. Excellent.
Yeah, he's a good dog.
Kirk, you haven't brought Happy into the studio in a while.
No, she's happier at home in her kennel.
Oh, okay.
So, well, we're going to turn you loose, Sam. Thanks again.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah. And you never told me the name of your podcast. So
She doesn't even know the name.
Well, we just assumed you
start following it.
We assumed you knew.
It's just it's actually printed on the side of our headphones right here. If you want to take a look at that.
Okay.
Well, here, let me hold the headphone up to the camera.
Yeah.
It's the Open Fly Podcast is the name of our gig.
Okay. Got it.
And we'll be getting the show edited and posted probably sometime today, so it'll be...
I recommend you skip past the first 25 minutes or so.
Of every show, pretty much.
Yeah.
Before our pre-interview section. Things get relevant about 20-25 minutes in.
Yeah. So I'll send you a link via message on Facebook, and you can run with it.
Should we have a call to action for our listeners? I mean, if somebody...
Did we already do that? We said go to the thing.
Yeah, but what are we giving them? Because it sounds like Sam might need a T-shirt from us. I mean, if she doesn't even know who we are, we have an awareness campaign of our own.
I'll send T-shirts to the first I don't know, 5 people that sign the petitions or something.
There we go.
And send me proof.
There you go.
And then we'll send one on
I'll
to Sam.
send you free the Snake Flotilla T-shirts.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Extra large for me, please. Sort of like a slim, like
Okay.
like an athletic fit.
White puffy wheat or whatever.
Right, I have that white puffy soft wheat.
Good enough. Well, we'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
bye.
peace out.
Free the snake. Tear those dams down. I didn't
Are
realize
we
that.
going to post interview discussion?
I don't know. I wasn't going to just shut it off.
I thought you did because I don't hear it in my headphones anymore.
Oh, you
don't?
know? I do.
Hold on, I got to turn you back up.
There we go. You're still here, Derek.
Nope, gone.
Well, you can hear me. I'm sitting right in
I
front
can't
of you.
hear myself. That's the most important.
I can hear you, though.
Can you? All right.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that each of those 4 dams have earthen sections that make returning the river flow
Yeah, a lot of those
pretty
dams
easy.
do. You know, you see the rock pile section
Yeah.
of a lot of dams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where there's the locks are.
Yeah.
So you could easily just open up the door to that lock and let the water flow. You don't even have to probably dig the dirt out. You just open up the doors and leave them open.
Yeah.
And then start pulling the rocks out of the rock pile there.
Well, let the spring flows do it. Because now you've got a channelized flow of water that's going to squirt right through that lock, and it will definitely move those rocks around. That's
Assuming we have a spring flow.
Well, yeah, assuming we have a spring flow. I mean, that water doesn't come. It comes from Idaho, where all the snow does fall.
Yeah.
Can you make us like a Free the Snake T-shirt? I think that would be sweet.
Oh, I could make one, but
I could make one.
what good would that do?
I'm thinking like a coiler, like a coiled up rattler.
Yeah, but then
Behind
ignorant
bar.
people are just going to think we're talking about like letting a snake out of its cage or something.
Yeah.
That's like at the local zoo.
Yeah.
Not if it has an open fly
See, that would be
podcast basket that it's coming out of. With
Like
some
let's
wings
say,
on
like
it.
free
and
the
some,
snake river, and then ignorant people can get on board.
Oh.
See what I'm saying? We know what the snake is because we're in the know. But
I think a salmon standing behind some jail bars holding on with its pectoral fins with longing in its eyes, that would tug at the heartstrings.
What about if
Or
that
a
salmon had
panda.
a wooden staff that turns into a snake, and then when you smite it on the ground, it
or how about like
bites people?
a wizard riding a hot dog over the moon?
How about a barge full of unicorns?
Holding a steelhead above his head.
Oh, that's right. I did design that one thing at the beginning of the Open Fly podcast lifespan. I remember it was holding the steelhead over his
Yeah.
head, riding the unicorn over Snoqualmie Falls.
Yeah.
With the lightning and the flames coming from the bowels of the earth.
So what do we do with all those boats, the huge barges? Because there's a lot of big boats. We could make those into riverside housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solve the homeless problem.
Yeah. Let's put
Like,
people
but-
on people on boats on the water and
But
ship them off.
put all the homeless on the boat and send them downstream.
You better do that before the dams come down.
Oh, that was probably the least PC thing I've said on this show.
That's all right.
Think about the hipsters. I mean, seriously, you could
Put all the
could-
hipsters on the boat.
You could build apartment buildings on top of these barges and plant them on the side of the river and turn it into like grassy walkways with brew pubs and
Oh, yeah.
And then one day, just
Riverfront Park, as it were.
at high water, just let that barge kind of float off and go into the distance with all the hipsters on it. Although then they would just end up in Portland, where they probably
they
came
belong.
from.
Yeah.
the hipster migration.
The lumbersexuals.
Yeah. Oh, Portland.
Oh,
It's-
Portland.
Seattle's younger brother that never got a job.
Wow.
What?
No, that's true.
Portland sucks.
Unless you live there and like it.
Right.
Yeah, then it's cool.
Yeah.
It's better than Canada.
That's a
Well,
great slogan for a town, too. I mean, I like Keep Portland Weird. That's a good one, but better than Canada? Shit. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Canada just had some elections.
They did.
And I picking up the vibe on social media.
That it was a good outcome.
Some like it, some don't.
Everybody I know likes it. Well, that's because I'm a socialist.
Because you're
Yeah.
a liberal socialist.
So are you.
That's true. What's Kirk? The progressive
Not that.
conservative.
I'm a Roosevelt Republican.
Oh.
Paleo conservative.
I'm all about conservation, but
The conservative.
well, like they said, Teddy Roosevelt, he was a
good dude.
he was a good dude. He
I could get on board with that.
yeah.
That'd be actually a good title, a good name for a podcast. The conservative conservation conversation.
Yeah. Needs to happen.
Triple C.
Yeah.
I'm a Roosevelt socialist. The other Roosevelt.
FDR.
Yeah.
He's the reason those dams
I'm
were
a Carter
built.
Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a big fan of Jimmy Carter.
The WPA built those dams, Evan. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't want to build more dams, but I think we can build bridges and roads and stuff.
Yeah.
There you go.
What happens when you get to rivers?
Build big culverts and shit.
Oh.
Put the rivers
I've
in.
really thought this out.
Well, okay.
To free the snake.
Gee, I think it's getting near time that we unplug
What are we unplugging?
the show.
The show.
Oh, why?
Well, just for today.
Oh.
All
By the next show, you're going to have to commute like 100 miles, aren't you, Derek?
No, you're going to have to call me. I'll Skype it in.
Is that what's happening?
I might be like a guest on the show.
Can we do a visual Skype, though? Because I want to see you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not going to be the same if our listeners
Well,
don't
I'll
have.
make you a T-shirt of me, and you can wear my T-shirt.
Oh.
Or I'll buy you some glasses that
Go
has
to
my
the-
face on the inside.
Go to the mall kiosk and get the
There isn't a mall in Ellensburg. Sorry.
get the. No, we could start taking up donations to pay for the gas bill.
No, I chose a new home over in Ellensburg where there's a nice runway for the corporate jet. So
Ooh.
Perfect.
It's just a little bit of a longer flight, but
Not a problem.
I think it'll work out.
Yeah, the show will go on.
Nothing changes.
We're taking applications to sit in Derek's seat.
Oh, am I being fired?
Interns,
fired?
communication broadcast interns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll call it that.
All right.
Okay.
They better have a strong snake strategy. Because
I'll get somebody from the Murrow College over at WC.
I'm from the Murrow College of Communication.
So am I.
All right.
Right on.
Yeah,
Well, send your applications in.
Okay, and make your donations
or sign the petition.
or sign the petition.
Now, the first 5 of you to do any of those things, I'll send a care package to.
Free the snake.
Yeah.
I'll put some prizes and things in there: shirts, stickers.
Yeah.
I don't know,
All right.
All right.
tasteful nudes.
That is not what I had in mind when I said free the snake.
Yeah. Our fly is closed.
Bye.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
I know more than I knew before. Every time a woman comes, it